Perfect timing.
This is the regular meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, August the 17th. Please stand for our invocation, led by W.A. James Grace and Truth Christian Fellowship Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, our Lord and Savior, we thank you for another sunset and another sunrise on this lovely Tuesday morning. Thank you for government. Thank you for governmental bodies. Thank you for the office of the mayor, office of councilwomen, councilmen, and everyone in their respective places. Keep us with thy keeping care. Keep us with thy keeping power, and certainly, Lord, keep us all in the path that thou would have us to go. These blessings we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we would sit down, we've been asked to observe a moment of silence. We'll hear from Councilwoman Gina Gregory.
Yes. Thank you. I'd like to ask you all for a moment of silent prayer for the family of Mike Druin. A lot of you all knew Mike through all of his service throughout the city and throughout the community, but Mike was 79 years old when he died, lifelong resident of Mobile. He died on August 7th and was just buried on August 10th. Mike attended St. Mary's Catholic School, graduated from McGill, and attended Georgetown University, and then came home after his father's death to finish up at Spring Hill College and then lived in Mobile the rest of his life. He also served in the military in Vietnam, and as I mentioned earlier, had been very much involved in the community and serving on a number of boards and organizations, including the Solid Waste Authority, where Mike represented District 7. So if you would please, just a moment of silence in the honor of Mike Druin, and also, of course, for his family.
If I could add something, if you don't mind,
yeah.
not to take away from Mr. Druin. He certainly was an asset in our community and will be greatly missed. But I would like to ask everyone to take a moment also, along with that request, for what's happening in Afghanistan, for those in harm's way, that they get out with safe passage, and also for our veterans, that we thank them for their service and it was not in vain. So if we could just take a minute to do that, I'd be most appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call. President Manzi.
Here.
Vice
Thank you.
President Small.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Daves.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Statement of rules.
Good morning.
Morning.
We first would ask that you would turn off or silence all electronic devices as you enter the council meeting. Any person wishing to address the council must sign in indicating the resolution, ordinance, appeal, or public hearing agenda item before entering the meeting. When addressing the council, we ask that you state clearly for the record both your name and your address. Any person desiring to speak to the city council on a non-agenda item must first contact the city clerk's office on the Thursday preceding the Tuesday in which you'd like to speak by 2 p.m. All of your commentary must be pertinent to City of Mobile business. If you haven't been able to follow those instructions, then you won't be given an opportunity to address the council. Speakers are granted 3 minutes to make their presentation. A bell will sound to indicate that 2 minutes have elapsed. 1 minute remains for summarizing. The second bell indicates that all of your time has expired. When addressing the council, there is to be no personal address to any individual. All of your statements, your questions ought to be made to myself as I serve as chair. And if a member of the council wishes to speak or to respond, they'll have that opportunity and they'll be acknowledged. To maintain decorum, there will be no undue applause and or public outcry allowed during the course of this particular meeting. Those are the rules. Thank you for your interest in your municipal government.
Communications from the mayor.
Good morning. It's good to see you here this morning. As everyone knows, since March of 2020, we've been dealing with the COVID pandemic, and we're into this new phase being created by the Delta variant, and our hospitals are maxed out, and the healthcare workers are stressed out, beyond stressed out. And so we've been asked to bring recognition to the fact that there needs to be an expression of appreciation from the community to all those that are working so diligently. And so the City Council and I have drafted the following proclamation, which I will now read. Since March of 2020, Mobile's frontline hospital and healthcare personnel, doctors, nurses, orderlies, clerks, and administrators have valiantly worked to protect and save the lives of its citizens against the deadly COVID-19 virus. And whereas our frontline healthcare professionals have put their own safety and health at risk, working countless hours, day after day, week after week, and month after month, often without adequate supplies, equipment, or manpower. And whereas our frontline healthcare professionals have witnessed and lived with the heartbreak, grief, and trauma of having patients succumb to the disease, often sharing this grief with the families who have lost loved ones to the ravages of the virus. And whereas our frontline healthcare professionals have personally sacrificed so much of their own time, energy, and well-being to fulfilling the call upon them to serve their fellow man, often at the expense of their own families and loved ones. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has returned to Mobile in the form of the deadly Delta variant, putting increasingly greater stress on the ability of our healthcare system and professionals to provide for the needs of our citizens. And whereas in times of crisis, Mobilians have always rallied together, and the time is now to rally behind these men and women with our prayers, love, and outward support, showing our heartfelt appreciation for all they are doing to protect and preserve our health and lives. Now, therefore, I, William S. Stimson, the 108th Mayor of the City of Mobile, am joined by the members of the City Council declaring the week of August 18th through August 25th, 2021 as Healthcare Prayer and Appreciation Week. Further, we are calling upon all Mobilians to join in praying for all healthcare workers and their families each day sometime during the noon hour, praying that the spread of the disease will be arrested, and praying that those who are sick will fully recover. And further, we call upon all churches and houses of worship to toll their bells for 1 minute at noon each day during this week as a reminder to all citizens that we must unite to defeat the challenges presented by COVID-19. And furthermore, we call upon all citizens to show their support and appreciation by getting vaccinated, wearing masks, and by embracing social distancing and good hygiene. And furthermore, we ask all citizens to show their appreciation to our frontline healthcare workers by writing them notes of encouragement, buying them meals, sending them flowers, and assisting in the care of their families, their yards, and their homes. Done at the City of Mobile this 17th day of August 21, signed by all the City Council and the Mayor. I sincerely hope that you will reach out into your network, to your church, to the community organizations, and help us spread this word. If you haven't had an opportunity to talk to a family member of those on the front line, you really can't grasp what's going on. So we just encourage everybody to participate with us in this very noble cause. On other items, last week, I had the opportunity to attend a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the Alta Point Behavioral Health Crisis Center. I'd like to say that this will be a game changer for public, not only for public health, but for public safety in the city of Mobile. So often, our policemen are confronted with dealing with someone who has mental challenges, and truly our policemen aren't equipped to maybe handle some of those challenges. Well, now, instead of having to find a hospital to take them to, or to take them to the jail who are not prepared to be able to deal with them, we can take them to the Alta Point Behavioral Health Crisis Center and know that there will be professional help there to assist PD in doing what we need to do, but more importantly, help that individual maybe stabilize and get pointed in the right direction. So we're tremendously grateful to Governor Ivey, who made sure that the funding was available for 3 different locations in the state of Alabama to have these crisis centers. That's a 24-hour center, and it's already online, but as it ramps up and as our police department engages in the training on how to deal with these crises, I just know that at the end of the day, it's going to be a big step in the right direction for public health and for public safety. On another note, on Saturday, I had the opportunity to go to a sight and see tour at Brooklyn by the Bay. We had hundreds of citizens turn out. Shonda Smith and her team, Parks and Rec, did a great job preparing the vans and having cold popsicles for everybody that was hot after doing the walkabouts and the roundabouts. But I cannot explain to you how gorgeous this piece of property is and what the future holds for what that park will look like one day. We have posted on the city website or on social media, I guess, a virtual tour that you can actually take the virtual tour of the park so that you have an understanding that we have a clean canvas for which we will create what will be a magnificent park. During the tour, someone made the comment, said, Mayor, I think that Mobile will be the only city in America where if you fly into the airport and your plane is delayed for several hours, you'll be able to get on a shuttle, go to the beach, maybe get a suntan or go swimming, and then catch your flight, because it's within spitting distance of what will be the new terminal. Anyway, we're very excited about it, and we're excited about hearing what all the public has to say about the things they think that we should do in that area. On another note, I would like to say that with the continued construction of Broad Street, at this point, we're now approaching the intersection of Government Street. We do not plan to shut down Government Street until Dolphin Street is open, except for 2 nights, we will have to shut it down, half of it at a time, so that we can put in some water valves. So on the night of August 17th, it will be 2 lanes will be closed down, and on the night of August 24th, we'll do the same thing. But just for the period of those nights, hopefully by daybreak the next mornings, Government Street will be open and remain open for traffic. And then once the construction gets to that point in time, it will help expedite us keeping Government Street intersection closed. Also, this recently, because of the situation with COVID and dealing with the downtown bar and restaurant owners and listening to where we stand with COVID, the decision has been made to postpone Beer Fest, and the new date is October 16th. And all the bar and restaurant owners, they're doing this not just to protect the patrons there, but also their staffs. So everybody, please be mindful of that, and we'd also please ask you to adhere to the protocols that we know are so important for COVID-19, but also please, please, please get vaccinated. Thank you very much.
Mr. President,
Yes, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, you had several great news in your announcement on this morning, but question with the altar point, if you can inspire just a little bit, past the 24 hours or the 48 hours that the patient is at altar point, what will happen after the 24 or 48 hours that they are there?
What was the very last part of that?
What will happen to the patient?
So, in listening to the presentations that were being made by the staff, there's a belief that most patients can be stabilized really within 23 hours. And that was the number they used. They kept saying 23 hours. And I don't know exactly what they do to stabilize them. But for those who they feel like they cannot go back into the street or back home or wherever they may have come from, they have facilities there to keep them overnight for a couple of days to see if they can get them stabilized.
Okay, all right, thank you.
To really get the full feel of it, I would suggest that maybe you call them or maybe a group of city councilors and actually go take the tour and listen to what they plan to do. It's amazing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I would just, I've had citizens to contact me regarding this COVID variant that is more deadly than the first on what we are going to do. So I would just like to say that under the first wave, the mayor put together a COVID Central Command Center. He had in there city and county officials, Mobile County Health Department officials, officials from medical institutions around the city. All the hospitals were in there and other institutions. And they kept us apprised on a daily basis just about on what was happening with COVID. And COVID today is worse than it was then. And I want to ask the mayor whether or not you plan on bringing the Central Command back. Your command, you know, you had a command group that you put together to deal with the COVID issue. Now that COVID is worse, seems like the group has hibernated, and the citizens want to know when are you going to come back with this group so they would know what to do.
So, Councilman, one of the things that we learned during the first wave of this, and the first several months of it, when we had the Unified Command stood up, was that how much we were relying on the chief medical officers, the CMOs, to really give us the information because they were on the front lines. And so what the decision was made that what we will do at this phase, at this particular point in time, is that we were going to ramp up the communications with the CMOs. When I say ramp up, we continue to meet with them once a week, even since the very beginning. But now we're in constant contact almost daily about what's going on, which gives us an opportunity to react quicker. And I'll give you a case in point, is there may be an opportunity to have a monoclonal infusion center where instead of having to go to the hospitals, which are overburdened right now, we're working to see if we can do it in the Civic Center. All of that has happened in very short order, and it just gives us more flexibility. That's not to take away from what the Unified Command may be able to do, but from the perspective of neither the health department, nor the county, have we felt like that we need to be doing more than what we're doing at this point in time, or if there has been that thought, they haven't reached out to me.
Thank you for that. But my assessment seems to me that, because we don't hear much from the Mobile County Health Department either, that since the city took the lead with the virus, then the director of the Mobile County Health Department is a little reluctant in going out because the city laid out with that. So now we don't have anybody leading. We have statements being made, but it seemed to me that the Mobile County Health Department is in charge of the health of the citizens in Mobile County. But since the city went out in front, it seems to me that the director of Mobile County Health Department is a little reluctant in going out advising the citizens what to do. And I think that needs to be resolved. Citizens need to know what's going on. They need leadership, and they need to know what's going on.
I have a question of the mayor, if I may. Thank you. Just going to assume it's okay. I know that the clinic that was giving vaccines out at the mall was asked to vacate, and I'm not getting in the middle of that, but was there any thought about maybe volunteering at the Hank Aaron parking lot and stadium area for become a vaccine clinic, because they were rocking it there?
Yes,
That
so-
people were getting the shots.
Right, so what we have found out is because of, if in the parking lots and all, because of the weather, it's just impossible to maintain and keep them open because of the lightning and the rain.
Right.
And just the inconvenience it is for the staff and for those who are attending. That's why we've chosen again to look at the Civic Center. And when I say set up a monoclonal infusion clinic.
But also
It would be, the vaccines would continue through the
Okay.
drive-in,
Good.
but all the rooms that circle the arena would take about maybe 5 or 6 of them. And if we can get the staffing for it, I mean, we're ready to go at the Civic Center. It's a matter of, now the hospitals figuring out how to collaborate to get the staffing for it. And if they can figure that out, I think that you will hear a whole lot more about that's where you
Good. I
go if you need the
really think that
infusion.
would be a great
Yeah.
outreach to do.
And we actually looked at other places, maybe more centrally located, but because of the ability to really control the traffic, the size of the parking lot, we already have paramedics there, we already have staff there. It just made sense to let that be the first site anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking the Hank Aaron, because of the parking lot, we would
Yeah.
also control that too,
Yeah.
be wide open. It's not like it's competing with any other
Yeah.
business.
But I think that because of the amount of room that you have inside the buildings
Yes,
at
for
the Hank is not big
undercover.
enough to facilitate what we need to
Yeah,
do.
I see, okay. Well, that's good, and I too, I know everyone's urging the vaccination, you know, once a person gets the clearance from their physician that they are a candidate for it, and I hope people are making that outreach, because there isn't anybody that doesn't know somebody today, because this is spreading so fast. So it would be great that we kept that ramped up. Great, thank you.
Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Probably moved in second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Appeals, we have requests for a waiver of the noise ordinance on September 11th in Medal of Honor Park and September 3rd through the 5th in Herndon Sage Park.
So moved.
Second?
Probably moved in second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Seth Pepper.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I received a email from Mr. Pepper indicating that he's not going to be able to be with us today.
Thank you.
Timothy Hollis.
Timothy Hollis, 1924 Seal Street. Good morning, council. Good morning, administration. Looking at 21-642, just want a little more clarity on this situation where the Parks and Recs is asking for $40,000 to be provided for a tennis coach. Not too sure on the legalities and all the parameters surrounding it. Heard a little bit on it at the pre-council meeting, but I'd like a little more clarity on where we stand with that before we have 1,000 different athletic coaches that work in this city trying to get $40,000 to coach when most people do this work for volunteer basis. Also want to take a look at 60-672. No, I'm sorry, 679. And that is, I just want to commend the council person for sponsoring that and putting that on the agenda. Apparently someone heard us last week and emphasizing the importance of considering public library workers essential. And the next one would be the allocation to the Bay Area Women Coalition Group. I've seen where they've been on the agenda once back around the July period, June period for receiving monies. And I want to know what is the essential use of considering their purpose for this $2,000 today. Not a problem, I just like to know what the purpose is since it's not being stated. And my non-agenda item that I signed up to speak on is what is going on in our municipal courts. Why are citizens not receiving their bond payments back at a timely manner? There are instances where certain citizens have stated that they have not received their bond payments back. And they tell you that the bond payments are only supposed to come out 6 to 8 weeks after the court cases are done. But I have several instances where citizens have stated that it's been 10 weeks, 11 weeks where they haven't received their payments back yet. Also, they're calling down here. Nobody's answering the phone except for the clerk, the operator. And when they get to the department that they're concerning with, they're leaving voicemails, not getting any return calls. That is not acceptable. So could someone please give me some clarity on any one of these issues? Any one?
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
on 60679. Okay, that one was, I sponsored that one. First of all, the council cannot put revenue items on the agenda. We can vote on them. The mayor can't vote, but he also, we can vote, but we can't put the revenue items. The mayor would have to do that. So some of us felt that the library employees should receive the same $5,000 bonus as city employees. And then I made a request to council attorney for him to research the law and find out whether or not library workers were essential employees. He came back and said, yes, they are essential employees, just as essential as city employees. But he had a caveat. But according to ARP rules, only the mayor can deem them essential for pay. The mayor has not deemed them as essential employees. So to encourage the mayor to go ahead on to deem them essential employees, because the libraries were open, they served the public during the pandemic period, they should be getting the same pay. I put this resolution on, hoping that the councilman would join me in telling the mayor, give the employees $5,000. We're not going to take it up today because I don't have unanimous consent. It'll be before the council next week.
Thank you.
Gregory Dennis.
Good morning. My name is Gregory Dennis, and my address is 5919 Wernwood Drive South, and I live behind the red line of discrimination in Hillsdale Heights subdivision. Why am I here today on my birthday? I've come to speak about the discrimination against the residents of Hillsdale Heights subdivision. There are currently about 32 residents that live behind the red line of discrimination that was created by the City of Mobile and University of South Alabama officials. The City of Mobile officials has failed to maintain the infrastructure and approve the illegal installation of barricades surrounding our houses behind the red line of discrimination to appease University of South Alabama officials. USA officials is failing to properly maintain their property in Hillsdale Heights, reducing the value of our property. Who's discriminating against the residents? The record shows District Councilwoman has a pattern of discrimination. The city installed sidewalks in Hillsdale Heights subdivision, and she refused to install sidewalks on the resident streets who live behind the red line of discrimination. The record also shows the mayor and District 7 councilwoman recently continued this discrimination against the residents. The city only paved the streets behind the red line of discrimination surrounding the back of USA campus and the new football stadium. The mayor and District 7 councilwoman refused to pave the other streets behind the red line of discrimination where the residents live. The street I live on behind the red line of discrimination was only paved because my house is located behind USA campus and the new football stadium. Why am I mad with the city of Mobile and USA officials? I'm disgusted with the mayor and District 7 councilwoman because of their discrimination against the residents of Hillsdale Heights that live behind the red line of discrimination. I'm disgusted with the city council for sitting in silence, allowing this discrimination against the residents. Please be advised, you need to come forward and speak up and solve these crimes. I'm disgusted with the police department for allowing the mayor and District 7 councilwoman to break the law and city ordinance, letting USA officials illegally barricade the streets in my neighborhood. I'm disgusted with USA officials' failure to maintain their property, the gutters in front of their property, letting vegetations and weeds grow into the streets in my neighborhood. What action does the city of Mobile and USA need to take? The city of Mobile needs to stop this discrimination against the residents and pave our streets and maintain the infrastructure behind the red line of discrimination. USA need to properly maintain their property in Hillsdale Heights subdivision. Thank you.
Reggie Hill.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk, Mr. President, members of the council, Mayor Stimpson, citizens and stakeholders of Mobile, good morning. Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street. I rise today just to ask a few questions about the 5 items that were listed by our city clerk. The first being 64-026 regarding the zoning. It is to my knowledge, based on the pre-council meeting, that this will be laid over and sent to a committee. So I won't spend much time on that, but I do want to remind us that it's dangerous if we are going to allow an administration to have approval over zoning changes without it coming before the council. As well, the privilege of the previous statements in Chapter 64 allow for smaller groups to have opportunity to participate and develop within the city of Mobile. So I think it's very imperative that we examine all of that before approving any code. The next piece, like Mr. Hollis, 21642, I wanted to understand more about the tenants contract. We know that there was an explanation here before, but it's just, it's quite confusing if it appears to be something on the agenda, and then when we come down before here, they say it's exactly something different. So it's warranted that we would come and ask these questions because it's not specified, and it's not listed exactly what's going on. So hopefully we can gain clarity, and in the future, that might be something that we need to do so that people don't have to keep asking questions about things simply because it's not reflective of what's being written down and presented in the official minutes. Looking towards the wall repairs, this is another item that is not specified by the district as well. There have been several inventory lists that I've requested in which the sponsor of this item has said would be available, but we have not seen those. So I would like to see a record of this and possibly who all was a part of getting this done. It's very very beneficial time, I would say, very advantageous to work on these repairs here, which I've seen within the community. I know since at least I've been back in the city, but that's for another day. Hopefully we get some answers on that. On 60654, this payment, I'm going to reflect on previous questions that I've asked of this body. They had to go through the finance department. It has to come to the agenda today. If it is approved, then it will go on to be signed. Has to pass through legal. Mr. President, would there be any reason why you would believe that that item 60654 would not be approved unanimously today? Okay. 60679, I appreciate the councilman for putting this on the agenda, as well as the other council who advocated so much in favor of this. It's much needed. They're a vital part of our community, Mobile Public Library. 2 weeks ago, I asked what was the definition of an essential worker. Another individual asked today, and yet we still are not getting an answer. So I tried my best not to say this in over a month, but please remember, these are taxpayer dollars. Well, we go ahead. Thanks for you on the floor.
Ordinance is held over. 64026, ordinance to amend and restate Chapter 64 of the City Code zoning.
Colleagues, I'd ask that we would convene a meeting of the Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, September the 7th at 2 p.m. As the next meeting for this particular subject matter. If that time doesn't work perfectly, please let us know. But we certainly would need to lay it over until at least after that called meeting.
That's Tuesday, September 7th at 2 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Did you get with both of the individuals we wanted to be in attendance?
Yes, ma'am.
And so they've cleared the estates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just wanted to make sure of that ahead. Thank you, appreciate that.
So we're going to hold this over for a month to the 14th. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Until we need a date after the 7th of
Move
Tuesday.
to hold over until September 14th.
Yes, sir. Properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
CIP resolutions held over. 01638, authorized agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for Airport Boulevard congestion management.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolutions held over. 08639, 640 are approving purchase orders to CDW Government LLC for a subscription for server virtualization software, and to Sunbelt Fire for 87 pairs of leather fire boots. 09641, reallocate monies from the police department operating account to capital improvement fund for purchase of Microsoft software and to replace and repair current target system of the Mobile Metro firing range. 21642, authorized contract with Lance Delston to provide tennis lessons and clinics for Parks and Recreation Department. 47643, establish fair market value of property to be vacated at North Washington Avenue and North Dearborn Street. 47644, assent to the vacation of an alley located between North Washington Avenue and North Dearborn Street. 60645, approve settlement agreement and release of claims. 21648, authorized contract with SC Stagner Contracting for Canal Street wall repairs and fencing.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I want to get a clearance on 21648 from Ms. Kidd. Is it?
Can you speak in your mic, Mr. Richardson?
It was a question about 21648 this morning. She was
Yes.
going to get back with us. Is it? Oh, that was 41%? Okay, it's good. No problem.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Consent resolutions being introduced. 03649 through 46678.
Yeah, motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration for 03-649 through 46-678.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
03649, 650 are concurrent in reappointment of Dr. Janice Denise Smith to the Mobile County Board of Human Resources and reappointing Lawrence E. Carroll Jr. and Ray Richardson to the Solid Waste Disposal Authority. 58651 and 652 are declaring weeds noxious and assessing costs for removal of weeds, groups 1617 and 1613. 60653, approve award a special bonus to the Office of the Month for July 2021 as part of the Mayor's Incentive Program. 60654, 655, 656, 657 are determining appropriations to the Africatown Community Development Corporation, Restoration Deliverance Outreach Ministry, Youth on the Winning Side, and the Bayer Women's Coalition, Inc. serve a public purpose in approving payment. 46678, give the corners of Buck Street and Weinecker Avenue, Elliott Street and Weinecker Avenue, and Virginia Street and Weinecker Avenue the honorary designation of Corinthian Missionary Baptist Church Corner.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
Resolutions being introduced for the first time, 01658 through 6679.
By council rules, these resolutions be laid over 1 week.
Call for public hearings. 41677, call for public hearings to rezone property located at 2820 Spring Hill Avenue, north side of Spring Hill Avenue, extending to Burton Avenue to Haasfelt Lane from B2 and B3 to B3, scheduled September 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Announcements. The city council meeting for Tuesday, August the 24th is rescheduled to Wednesday, August the 25th.
Yes, ma'am. Let's kick off from the Great Fourth District, Mr. John Charles Wade.
Wow. I was gonna save something, but I just want to encourage everybody to go vote. This is our last opportunity to do so, to encourage everyone to vote. Be patient with those in line with you and those who are trying to run our voting places. But most importantly, this has been the campaign that I've observed from all candidates has been civil. And wouldn't it be great for us to finish this final week in that same manner and go to the polls in the spirit that is great about our nation, as that is that we can get along, we can live in the same community and contribute to the same community and believe different things. And it's not a bad thing, and we don't have to be angry while we stand in line or cast our vote or pass another campaign working. Bad words and bad actions just don't look well on the citizens of Mobile. So I look forward to the results next Tuesday, and I wish everyone that is running for office very best in however it turns out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to piggyback behind Councilman Williams regarding voting. It is a right. It was earned. I was part of the generation who was born without the right to vote, and I was part of the struggle to gain the right to vote. I know I was there. And when in 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed, And even when the Voting Rights Act was passed, I had to have somebody to vouch for me. I had to pay the poll tax, and I had to interpret the Constitution. So I put the test on the person administering the questions. She asked me to cite from the Constitution. I cited from the preamble. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. They're endowed by that Creator with all indelible rights. Among these is, but anyway, this sister said, "You have passed the test." So we have come from a long way. John Lewis and that group, Bloody Sunday, they was not trying to vote in Selma, Alabama when they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. They were not trying to vote. They was demonstrating for their right to vote. And they was beaten to a pulp just for demonstrating, just to have the audacity to say you want to vote. Who do you think you are out here in public saying you want to vote? They had electrical cattle prods. They beat them down. So, because so much was done for everybody to have the right to vote, I think we would be less than decent citizens if we don't honor those who fought so hard for this, if we didn't go to the polls to vote. No vote, no hope. I would like to announce, Mr. President, that on Thursday night, the 19th of August, I will be hosted by District 1 Beat 35 community meeting. This meeting will be held at the Tobinville Library starting at 6 o'clock. Mask will be required. We're going to come and go over the CIP projects that we've already done and that we are planning to do in the future. I want to apprise you exactly what's going on. We're going to have the captain from the police department to come and talk about crime, and let me announce right now. District 1 is the safest district in the city of Mobile. Precinct 3 is the safest precinct in the city of Mobile. It's just didn't get that a day. It's been that down there for years. Just want to make that known. But we intend to have the captain from them and invite somebody from Mobile County Health Department to come and talk about the Delta variant. So, but more importantly than all of that, I want to hear from the citizens so that I know that whatever I am doing, it is what you want me to do. I started doing this in year 2000. I was the first council member in the history of the city of Mobile to hold regular community meetings, and I have not stopped since then. I created a circuit, and I run the circuit. I go from community to community, keep going. So your night, Tobinville, is going to be Thursday night. Looking forward to seeing all of you at the Tobinville Library at 6 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Ms. Rich.
Oh, thank you very much. I guess I'll piggyback on the reason to vote. I know that in past history, I think the average number of voters that come out for a city council or a mayor's race, which is tied together every 4 years, is about 35% of the people who qualify to vote. So let's see if we can get that higher this time, especially in light of what we're watching over in Afghanistan. And again, I really want to just say that I hope everybody is praying for the safe passage of people out of harm's way that were left behind when the Americans pulled out. So I know many of you might even know individuals that are there and are waiting to get out before things get worse. the idea that we can never forget the veterans and the military that served during the Afghan period of war, some giving the ultimate sacrifice, and never in vain. So I hope that's conveyed to anybody in our community and even nationwide. I'm going to now just talk about our splash pad that is operational now again, and I know that citizens are really pleased with that and they're glad to see it running. But I want to also mention again, it's been brought to my attention that it's one of the reasons for the shutdown is because of the food containers and plastic things that are coming into the splash pad area. They get caught into the pumps and it shuts things down, it overheats things, and it's a real problem. So I urge parents to please, your child isn't going to know not to drop it. It's really up to you to please pick up and make sure that you do instruct your child to either have your own little plastic bag or put it back into whatever sack you carried it in. Find a garbage can, there are many in the area, but please don't let them drop it onto the pad itself. And I hope that message will make it out to the community, because people are very disappointed if they plan a party out that way and it's not running. So let's all do our part with that. And thank you, and don't forget, vote next week when we get back here on Wednesday, since we're not meeting at our regular time. We might be certifying some people, we might be looking at runoffs on October 5th. However, I know there's postcards that are in the mail, I'm hoping they're in the mail, that tell people where to vote. It is somewhat confusing for a city election, because you cannot normally, or some people are lucky and they go to the same polls because it's in your district that you do for county and state and federal elections. However, your city election has to be in the borders of your council district. And some of that is a new location and only used every 4 years, and sometimes that even changes. So when you get your postcard, please take advantage of looking and knowing where you belong. You can call the city clerk's office to get some information, probably go on the city's website. But again, it's really not that difficult if you just understand you're voting either for a council person, the mayor is at large, but you might not be in your regular voting center for this particular activity on Tuesday, and then maybe October 5th as a possibility for any runoff elections. And let's get that 35% up. I would like to see that a lot higher for citizens engaged in your very own city. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. Ms. Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one other note on voting precincts. A lot of people who live in my district are a little confused over where they will be voting, because there was just a name change in the precinct. It used to be Moffett Road Assembly of God. It is now the Refuge Church. Same place, different name. I have an announcement about something that's coming up on Saturday, and since Shonda Smith is still here, I'd like to ask her if she would come to the podium. We have a really neat event coming up at Langen Park. Something that I've been talking about for years is putting canoes, kayaks, maybe other types of boats back out on Langen Park. And since that is really all in the works, but it just takes a very long time to get there because we have to dredge first and do some other things, we talked about doing a preview. So Shonda and her staff have partnered with another group to make this happen. So Shonda, if you would just provide a little bit more detail, I sure would appreciate it.
So on this coming Saturday, we will be having at Langen a canoe day. Families can go out there from 10 to noon and have access to the canoes and kayaks. We're working with Osprey, with a couple of other organizations that's working with us to educate people about the emperor snails and the work that they've been doing down there. It's actually free for, it's first come, first served for families to come with canoe and kayak the deeper end of Langen, trying to give them a head start of seeing what that could actually be once we do the dredging in that area. So please come out and enjoy canoeing.
Yeah, in case you couldn't hear because Shonda's not on the microphone, it is from 10 until noon. It's free of charge, first come, first serve. And Shonda, can people bring their own canoes out and participate, or they can? Because we've got Sunshine Canoes, I think, is providing free of charge as well. So come out, get a glimpse of what we'll be looking to do full-time, all the time, once Langan Lake is dredged. It's a great way to see what is out there, to experience it, and also sort of a teaser about what putting boats back on Langan Lake will be like. So we just invite everyone to please come. Again, that's Saturday, the deeper end of Langan Lake, from 10 until 12. I also want to thank everyone who was involved from the city side in installing and coordinating the new marker that is in the Sandtown community. I was happy to be able to provide funding to install the marker. We had master gardeners come and do landscaping. Peter Toller with Urban Forestry also trimmed up some trees and made the area look much better. So again, just many thanks to everyone who was involved. The marker was actually unveiled on August 7th, and they had a terrific turnout. This will be one of the stops along the Dora Franklin Finley African American Heritage Trail one of these days, and I hope sooner rather than later. It is a beautiful marker. If you drive by, just stop and take a look. And just thanks to everyone for being involved in this, from the city side to the volunteers in the Sandtown community. And that's it, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Gregory. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Follow my colleagues and talk about voting, but I'm going to take a different route. I would like to congratulate and our election chief officer of the election, Ms. Lisa Lambert, and her staff for trying some new things this year, such as Saturday voting and etc. I'd like to commend them for the excellent work they've been doing. They've been working very hard. I do know that there have been some whisper about that she may favoritism towards certain candidates, but I'm here to say that our city clerk and her staff, they have good morals and good characters, and I don't believe that our city clerk would jeopardize her career for no candidate. And again, I do commend Ms. Lisa Lambert and her staff for being very productive during this election process, and I know that the next week is going to probably be a little bit tougher, but just hang in there. And again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Daves.
Thank you, Mr. President. With respect to the election, if you have in the past voted that the Apostolic Church of God on Cottage Hill Road in the municipal election, you're not going to be able to do that on Tuesday. The church is undergoing some renovations, and the polling place will be Elizabeth Fondy School, which is at the corner of Azalea Road and Cottage Hill Road for this election coming up on Tuesday. I'd like to commend Ms. Lambert and her staff for working with both the school and the church, getting this worked out. There will be signs at the church. But again, if you vote at Apostolic Church of God on Cottage Hill Road, you're not going to be doing that on Tuesday. You need to go down to Fondy School. I'd like to come back for a minute to the proclamation which the mayor read, and I think it's important that all of us in this community thank and keep in mind and pray for our healthcare professionals who are dealing with an unprecedented crisis in our hospitals and medical facilities. We also need to keep in mind and pray for those individuals who have been impacted by this. I got an email from a lady who said that her mother has a serious health condition and was scheduled for surgery to ameliorate that condition. And the hospital called back and said they couldn't take her on the scheduled date simply because they didn't have the beds. The beds were all taken up with COVID patients. Now, what we're going through right now is a preventable surge, a preventable wave. If everyone that could had gone out and gotten vaccinated, we wouldn't be here today. It's really important, not only for yourself, but for the people you live with, the people you work with, and people you don't even know but live in this community, if you can get vaccinated, to go out and get vaccinated. It's your duty to everybody you know and even those you don't know. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I want to join my colleagues in expressing to the citizens of the city of Mobile to go and to participate in our municipal elections on Tuesday, August the 24th. The time for campaigning is fast at hand to end, and we'll hear from voters very soon, and you have that right, and you also have that responsibility. As mentioned by Mr. Richardson earlier, many, many, many lives were lost in order that we might have this precious freedom to go and choose who our leaders are and have a right, to have a say in how the direction of our city will move forward. And so I'm encouraging every citizen in the city of Mobile, every citizen in Council District 2, go to the polls and vote your conviction, and pray that we'll move forward in a progressive manner. I want to also commend our city clerk, our assistant city clerk, and every member of our staff. If there have been whispers relative to the city clerk and her connection to any particular candidate, they were not whispers from myself or any person connected to my campaign. I have the utmost respect for Ms. Carol Lambert, rather, and know that she is going to conduct this election in the manner in which she's conducted every election that she has had charge. Had I had any misgivings or reservations, I would have been public enough to state them. I had none. And so that's not an issue on my table at all. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, Ms. Merchant, and to the staff that you've put together to conduct these elections. It's a contentious time. I know it is. Everybody is at fever pitch. Everybody's nerves are a little short because we want to do things the right way. And even as candidates, you're wondering, have I done this? Have I done that? And so I get it. But in just a few days, it'll all be in the hands of the good Lord and the voters of District 2. And I trust both of them. I want to encourage the citizens in this community to seriously consider becoming vaccinated. Seriously. Any person, after seeing the facts and after having an opportunity to view how the vaccine have not had a deleterious impact on others throughout this country and still would be an anti-vaxxer, makes me really just wonder exactly what their focus is. What's going on now is totally preventable. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a doctor's appointment, and we had our mask on. And one of the ladies waiting to see the doctor ridiculed us, called us sheep, and started to bad because we had on masks, and said that we were listening to Dr. Fauci and all of this made-up science and helicopters and all of these other weird kind of just out there allegations. She just hurled at us. And we sat there and listened, didn't argue, because I've learned not to argue with brick walls. It took me a while, but I learned it. And but she ridiculed us until we all went back to the doctor, and then eventually she went in. Her funeral was Saturday. She contracted the virus, and she passed. And as the nurse was telling me this, she told me that as the very doctor that we were waiting to see went in to visit her, one of the last questions that she asked was, "Can I get the vaccine now? Will it do me any good now?" And at that point, it absolutely would not. I said all that to say, that we can have all these great weeks of prayer, and I'm for prayer. I'm a man of prayer. I live by it. Wouldn't be here without it. We could do all of this, and I'm in favor of it. But after you've done all of this, God has given all of us something called common sense. And it's getting less and less common these days. We would not be in the predicament that we're in right now. This is almost self-inflicted. And it's unnecessary. And then we have those that are laugh in the face of persons who have underlying diseases who have to go around with these. Nobody wants to wear this. I don't, but I'm going to do it. It's funny, it's comical, it's not serious until it's at your doorstep. And then all the giggles go, and real life and reality set in. If you have an opportunity to be vaccinated, take advantage of it. There are millions of persons around this world who aren't in America who would just love to have access to the vaccine. And here we have pharmacists just begging for us to come in and set up times to come in, and we don't do it. I didn't mean to even say all of that, but it just really bothers me, the condition that we're really allowing our own selves to be placed in. We can do better, and we should do better. I want to make one comment about the item of the wall at Canal and Washington Avenue. The timing is the timing. The citizens who don't have the protection of that wall have not had it for over a year and a half. So the choice is either put it on now and let those who will make hay of it for political gamemanship make hay of it, or wait and let them continue to wait. I'm not worried about it. The community in that neighborhood knows what we're doing. We've been keeping them informed, and we will continue to keep them informed. I'm appreciative of the assistance of Chief of Staff and all of the members of Mr. DeLapp's segment of the city in helping to get this item on the agenda. That concludes my remarks. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a couple of announcements.
Sure.
First, thank you, council, for your support during this time. It is very stressful for me and my staff, and we're working through it. So we're looking forward to a successful election on next Tuesday. I just wanted to reemphasize some deadlines. Today is the last day for absentee applications to be returned by mail. So they, and by law, they must be received no later than 7 days prior to the election, which is today. On Thursday, which is August the 19th, is the last day for absentee applications to be returned by hand, meaning that you can walk in to the absentee election office at 205 Government Street. So that's 5 days prior to the election. Those are some deadlines that I just wanted to point out to those.
This is to submit your absentee ballot?
Application for
Okay.
an absentee ballot. Okay,
What's the deadline for the receipt of the absentee ballot?
12 noon
Noon on
on Tuesday, August the 24th.
week from today.
Yes,
They have to be received in the clerk's office by that day, by
Yes.
that time.
we have to have it by then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so those are deadlines that I wanted to reemphasize to those individuals that were considering voting absentee because of work or whatever other reasons that they have to vote absentee. And the voter identification cards will hit this week. And we did not mail them earlier because the last day to register to vote was last week, last Tuesday. So we wanted to try and include all of those individuals that registered to vote on last Tuesday in this mailing. I want to point out that there are 8,568 registered voters that will not receive identification cards because they have moved or they have a forwarding address. And because of that, we do not want to send those out. They won't receive them. They won't be forwarded. The post office will not forward those. And if we change them and send them to the address that they have listed now, it will not give them the correct voting location for where they live now.
Sounds good to me.
Question on that. So if they have moved, but their official address with you and the, I guess, Board of Registrars is their old address,
They can go to their old address.
they can go to their old address and vote?
Right.
Even if it's maybe a whole different district at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and when they get there, they can fill out a voter update form there at that time.
But they would still have to vote in their old district,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
No.
If not, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.